English language teaching. Under the covers.
Hello and welcome back to ELT Under the Covers, ELT React. In this video, we're going to continue our communicative language teaching series by looking at an elementary lesson from Bill. But first, introductions. I'm Neil, our team teacher.
Hello everybody, it's Professor Rich.
Okay, Rich, so today we are looking at probably one of the most famous clips from Jeremy Harmer's How to Teach English demonstration classes. I think it's pretty famous. It's the one that I know anyway, and you know I'm in the know. And it's by Bill, and it's kind of like a bit of a pronunciation speaking class, and it's for elementary level students, whatever that means.
Right. I didn't realize it was famous. I feel a bit bad about this now because, you know, obviously I remember this one from my course and I remember people talking about it. And, yeah.
That's what famous is generally.
Usually people find it interesting, to say the least, right? So, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I don't want to make any prejudgments or biased comments before we've actually jumped into it. So, get ready for a rocky ride, I suppose.
the thing that I question is they've labelled it as elementary, and I'm not quite sure what they mean by that. We generally, in my mind, go beginners, intermediates. I'm presuming elementary they mean like the before beginner.
They mean A1 basically.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Well, actually, the terminology that seems to normally be used is that beginner is A0. So beginner is supposed to be like, because if you look at English file, the beginner book is really short, and it's the absolute fundamentals. You know, it's like B and the alphabet and stuff like that. And then elementary, then you start, you know, learning some verbs like live and eat and like,
right,
stuff like that. Yeah. So elementary is like A1.
Okay.
To A2, you know? Yeah, it's getting you to A2 basically.
Right.
Whereas like the beginner would be like mainly fundamentals, but might get you a bit into A1.
Right. Okay.
Overlap here.
Because I'm going on the framework, and if I remember correctly, the framework was like beginner is the A's, and then intermediate is the B's, and advanced is the C's. But maybe I just made that a little bit too reductive, and there's a little bit more extensive terminology there. So basically, we're looking at really, really low-level students of English and kind of what their needs might be. And Bill has some interesting ways of addressing those needs. So we can jump in if you want to.
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, we should obviously expect perhaps very clear language and probably not so much open discussion as we've seen in these other Jeremy Harmer clips. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi everybody, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
The weather today.
Awful. Awful.
Okay, look at my 5 faces. Number 1, number 5.
He's very animated, isn't he? I mean,
I love it. I know he gets some pushback, but he has my vibe. This is kind of my vibe in class.
Okay.
Lots of yeah, yeah,
Oh.
to me, to me,
No
to you,
worrying, no worrying.
yeah.
Or which number?
5.
How do you spell it?
A
Okay, one person. Go ahead.
W F U L.
Okay, pronunciation.
Awful.
Okay, everybody listen. Awful. Speak.
Awful.
See, his work so far is actually really good. Like the fact he asked them to spell it, everyone started doing it. He was like, no, we're not going to have that kind of whole class mumbling together. One person, you points, nominates, right? She spells it, and someone might say, getting people to spell stuff. What's all that about? It's demand high, isn't it? It's engaging them with the vocabulary. So, oh yeah, they know awful. Do they know how to spell it? It just makes them think about it more. It makes them engage with it. And all of this makes things more memorable. And then pronunciation, awful. Ah, that was a good model. So everybody, basically he's saying everybody copy her because I just said what she did is good.
Yeah.
So I really like this so far.
I wouldn't always do the nomination to spelling out, but definitely at lower level classes, because everyone kind of wants to get it in the, you know, like trying to visualize it or what have you. I know we've in the past talked about how we shouldn't have the word on the board that you're trying to teach and pronounce, but I just want to point out here that he had them saying the word first, then they're spelling it out, and then they're repeating. So it's kind of they know what it sounds like, they say it, then they can see it. So it's a subtle difference, but it does helps to point out, oh, it's kind of different because it's you know, it's not phonetic at all. That one anyway.
But the other thing is that it depends on the objective of what you're doing. So when we say don't write the phrase on the board, that's when you're doing a pronunciation drill where you're modeling something and you want the students to copy the sounds you're making. But here he's not actually doing that. He's asking them, he's eliciting from them how they'd say it. So you kind of have to have it on the board because you have to say like, right, say this, you know, because I want to hear how you say it. So he's doing it, you know, a different way. He's not like, oh, I'll model this and then you copy. And anyway, with individual words, that's not massively, you know, it's kind of 50-50 useful anyway, compared to modeling phrases, which is, you know, awesome in my opinion. But that's when if you were modeling phrases, the pronunciation of phrases, you would take it off, right? But here, because he's a listing, you say, right, how would you say that? Okay, you say it like that. All right, you know, I mean, because that's the interesting thing, isn't it? If you write it down and someone says "awe full," then you've got like a teach test situation where you're like, uh-oh, someone's pronunciation's a little bit off there. Oh dear, someone's going back into the coal mine. And then perhaps you might rub it off the board and say, no, listen to the sounds. They're different. They're not like the letters, are they?
Rub the word off the board. Yeah, rub the word off the board, just to be clear.
You could, yeah. So I'm happy so far.
Okay.
I know it's going into interesting places soon, but seems all good so far.
Very good or very bad?
Bad.
Okay. 1 minute with your partner. Think of more adjectives for woo. One example.
Good.
All right. 1
He
minute
wooed.
with your partner. Think of
Love it.
adjective. Okay. Go.
I don't mind it, but I do get the feeling that he's had one too many coffees. That's all.
Are you sure it's just coffee? It's great. I really like the exercise. It's really simple and it kind of gets them going.
I missed it actually. What was it? Are they writing synonyms to the words?
So he's got he's got these representations of kind of emotions from people's faces, right? So he's got like the top one being like a super happy, and then the bottom one being like super sad, awful, and synonyms, and yeah, basically synonyms and other words, because he gave one for the extreme low, but not for the extreme high, and I feel it's kind not demand high per se, but he's demanding, students know what they know, produce something, even though they might not know that much. But I think it's quite well graded, because at this level, they're going to know like okay and good and maybe happy, and like this is kind of vocabulary that you kind of do pick up at this level, that they can produce themselves. And what he's probably going to be doing from here is just helping them take it to the next level, adding a little bit more depth to it, to their yeah.
Okay.
Let's check together. This word here, pronunciation?
Dreadful.
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 What do you think? Very good? In the middle? Very bad? Who thinks very good? Very good. Oh, this school is dreadful. Very good?
No.
In the middle?
No.
Very bad?
Yes.
The same as?
Awful.
Yeah, awful and dreadful, the same. Today the weather is?
Dreadful.
Okay, pronunciation. How do you say it? Okay, stress. One. Where's the stress? One or two?
Two.
Brilliant.
No. Brilliant.
Stress one or two?
One.
Yeah, 2 syllables, brilliant. The stress,
Brilliant.
one. So listen, brilliant, brilliant. Speak.
Brilliant.
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 For example, this teacher,
Brilliant.
Totally something I would do.
the lesson. Okay, we're going to talk about last night. Yeah? Here is a conversation.
It's getting spicy.
Answer. Hey. What? Good. Slowly. Yeah? What do last night? Is last night now or finished?
Finished.
Okay. When you make a question, do, have, did,
Did.
because,
Past single.
and it's finished. Past simple. Well done. Congratulations. Good. Okay. Here's a question.
God, physical contact with the students.
Go ahead. What's the question? Think the-
Awful.
Okay. What's the question?
Dreadful.
I did.
Okay. Listen.
What did you do last night?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And here, cinema. What? Now, name of a movie? Borat, for example. Yeah? And enjoy? Okay.
Yeah, I do feel like he is going off the rails a bit here, isn't he? Like, his instructions are just really overcomplicated for what looks like a kind of simple conversation pattern. And he's like, what do last night? The cinema. What? Whoop, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? What, teacher? What's going on here? I'm getting, I feel like the evidence is kicking in.
I gotta push back. I like it, and it's just because it appeals to me so much. But
I like it.
but it's overcomplicated in that he's using lots of different what do you call them, placeholders for like those words. So what hoo or what ning 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 ning. Just pick one. But it could be what shrug, because I do shrugs. What last night, or I tend to do an but yeah, and also he's going quite fast as well. It's not leaving much.
He's going fast
Yeah.
for his instructions,
Yeah.
And it's like you say, he's using different audio signals, but he's also using different conventions as well. Like his first one, he's got what/do last night, and then he's got little man, cinema. So he didn't say I/go/cinema. He said little man, cinema. Okay. And then it's what and like a picture of someone with an arrow coming out of their eye. What? And a box that says the end in it. You know, like that's actually quite confusing. I mean, is it like, what was the end like? I mean, obviously the question should be, what did you see? But it's difficult to interpret that. And then, okay, Borat, fine. And then just enjoy, question mark. Okay, I could let that one off. I mean, that's the same convention as the first one, but why using so many different things? You know, it's like, it is quite confusing, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, he's going. So the thing is, my thing was always, if you're introducing no vocabulary, then you do it within a structure that they already know. If you're introducing new structure, you do it with vocabulary that they already know. So you're not having to do two new things at the same. They're not having to juggle two new things at the same time. Especially, look at the amount of vocabulary he's doing. He's doing over 10 words. And I know this is kind of elicited from students, but I'm presuming that like a couple of these students don't know a couple of these words. So that it's supposed to be what they say, about 10 words a day that you can kind of like really fully integrate. So that's a bit of a bugbear for me, is that it's a flood of new structure and new vocabulary, and it's in this kind of convoluted form. With that said, I do like his delivery, but I'm not sure how conducive it is to his aims right now. But the students seem to be going along with it, and it's better to have energy than no energy.
Yeah, I mean, the energy's good. The energy's good.
I do like his physicality as well. It's very important at this level. Doing the finger counting, and when he's talking about stress, 1, 2, and stress is the pull down. It's super important, especially at this level.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Don't write the conversation. Don't write it. You have 15 seconds. Think of the question and the answer. Speak with your partner. Okay? 15 seconds. Go.
No model.
I don't understand. He said you have 15 seconds to think of the answer. Speak with your partner. What? What do you mean? Think of the answer or speak the answer? Are we having the conversation, or are we talking about what answers you could have in the conversation?
Yeah,
I think they're talking about answers. And he said 15 seconds? Are you kidding me? 15 seconds? Jesus, give them a minute. What? 15 seconds? What's the answer to this? Oh, Jesus, man. Yeah, I do feel like it's going a bit fast. I'm surprised it's working. I'm surprised they're not like, what the hell are we doing?
What did you do last night? I go to the gym.
See, they are doing the conversation, but I don't know if that's what he was asking them to do.
Yeah, if they were trying to get the answer.
Yeah, he said think of the answers. And then he said speak 15 seconds. It's like that they're going into the conversation.
What did you do last night?
What did you see?
Time is up. Good. Okay. Victor, hi.
Hi.
Make the question.
The first,
The first question.
what did you do last night?
Okay. Answer.
I wouldn't write that on the board because I feel like keeping the prompt is sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
And his verbal acknowledgement that he made the question correctly, you go, nice one. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've written it on the board, when they inevitably go on and do something more with this conversation, which I presume he's going to do. I'm not sure, actually, because I remember him doing something else in this. So then they can just read it off the board then, and it becomes actually a less challenging task than it was the first time they did it. Mm-hmm. Surely you want to make it a more challenging task. You want to make it less controlled, more free, and less supported. Whereas now it seems like it's being made more supported by writing it down.
I The cinema. Okay, listen.
I.
Now or
How does he
past?
do the whistle so fast when he's talking? I can whistle, but I can't like speak and then whistle so fast. The cinema.
Well, there are certain compounds that you can take that allow you to do that. So.
What's the past to go? Listen.
I went to cinema.
Okay, tell me, cinema. I, okay, listen.
I went to the cinema.
I,
Went to the cinema.
No,
enjoy. Do you, did you, have you? Sandra?
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Question?
Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
1 point. Again?
Yes, it's brilliant.
It is or it was?
It was brilliant.
I feel like this guy would be really good in one-to-one classes. Like, I think he would be like really intensely stimulating for a private student because he just keeps challenging them. He's like, did or was, or do this or that, or how do you spell that? And okay, tell me 5 synonyms of that. And it's like, you know, you'd be getting so much like kind of, it's almost like intense personal training. You know? it would be exhausting.
Yeah, the student's like belly crawling out of the class. And he's
probably
like,
just-
bye bye. Bye or goodbye. Bye or goodbye. Oh, did you know?
Yeah. Five more ways of saying goodbye. 5 ways of saying goodbye. And in the past, formally, informally, to your father, to your mother.
What is the airspeed velocity of an
Scouse
American?
accent? Okay, Yorkshire, American English. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great for like an intense 30-minute one-to-one class. Wouldn't it? But it's the principle of demand high,
Yeah.
which actually I think was kind of developed a little bit after this, so a bit before his time in that respect.
Listen, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Speak. Okay, very good or very bad?
I like the way he did that with the weak form. And I like the way that he demoed it as well.
Yeah.
He was like, he did that. He was like, whiz, and he did that. And I was like, yeah, that's good actually. That's a good way of like of showing it. No, it's a big small sound that was. It was good. It was good. It was brilliant.
Okay, we're going to now look at the pronunciation. Where's the stress and intonation? Going up, rising. Going down, falling. Okay, so stress.
Different
Yeah,
color.
I mean,
Is it going to be a different color? Is it going to be a different color?
Rising.
it is.
Yes.
I feel like this is because we you know, remembering this, I think we know what's coming next. This is definitely where it goes off the rails, I think, and I feel like it's already got to the point where he's over-taught. And what I mean by that is he's teaching too much because he's taught them, as you've said, loads of vocabulary. And if we look at it, look at the board. It's got like squares and triangles and circles over the words. Like, it's got like the faces, it's got the conversation pattern. Like, there's loads already, you know? It's like, you've got enough to work with there, right? How about we all stand up and find a new partner and have a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Because we got a lot, right? And now he's going to do intonation patterns. And it's like, really? You know, intonation patterns is difficult at the best of times, but you're going to give them all that, the conversation, the vocabulary, the intonation patterns, and you're going to say, right, now, if there's any brain power left when you're thinking about all this, have a conversation.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I brought up that he's introducing too many new things, and it's spinning a lot of plates. And you're right, it really tires students out. And you know, if it was if he'd already introduced those structures before and he's got the vocabulary, I'd be inclined to kind of do intonation as well. But, what he's asking is pretty high. And it seems like he's starting to introduce the idea of intonation as well, which is more concerning to me because that's another new thing that they're learning. If it was he'd already done like a class on intonation, on vocabulary and structures that they've already used, but they're kind of just getting used to this idea of thinking about intonation when putting all these structures and words together, then it might not be so bad. But literally, it seems like he's literally explaining what intonation is and how to apply it on new words and new structures. It is overtaught. It's a bit much. It's a bit much.
I mean,
not everyone's on the same compound.
It's a bit much. It's a lot, much. It's a large amount.
Yeah,
he does. He reminds me of that Bo Select guy. It's a bit.
just camera's gonna cut back to him, and he's gonna have a kestrel. Look at the kestrel! Look at the kestrel! Look at the kestrel! Now, what did I say? What did I say?
Yeah. Kestrel, a type of bird. Right? Types of bird. Let's go. Yes, you. Not all at once. You. Okay. Yes, that's right. Sparrow. Can you spell it? S. Yeah. P.
What is the airspeed velocity of an African sparrow? You're mixing genres. You're mixing. Doesn't matter. Songs. Moonwalking. What am I doing? Sing the song.
Say what you see.
He's turned into Blockbuster. What's Mr. Chip doing? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I just had the thought that he could have even done this as an extension if he'd just let them have some practice with already this loads of stuff on the board, and then as error correction go, so Frodo over there. Say the first question. What did you do last night? Ooh, what do we think about that? And then he could go into the stress. After they've had some, communicative practice, and because then it becomes like a teach, test thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where they've done the activity, you've taught them something, they've done the activity, you tested by observing, and you've gone, their intonation's a bit wonky. Let's do some error correction and develop their intonation, and then go into intonation patterns.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't done that. Instead, he's just loading them with more restrictions and requirements. So, yeah, let's see how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
Falling.
What did you do last night?
Okay. Stress? Yes? Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you do last night? Now, is it going up or going down? Listen. What did you do last night? Up. It goes up on do and then down. No, this is falling. What did you do last night? Good. Okay. Now, where's the stress here? Okay. Now, speak the sentence. Is it rising or falling? Speak it.
I went to the cinema.
Rising or falling?
Falling.
Yeah. Here's the run. Cinema. Okay.
I've never been massively keen on intonation patterns for a number of reasons. I think raising awareness of intonation is the approach that I take with it, and trying to get people to copy intonation in natural speech, that's also quite useful because it becomes this imitation game style thing over time. But the idea of teaching patterns, falling, rising, rise, fall, rise, a lot of the time I don't think it's very useful. And I found that, well, it's not only not useful because it's difficult to integrate, but also I found it's very variable. And when I look at my own speech, I often find that it violates the so-called conventions of pattern of the intonation patterns. So, for example, they say that yes/no questions have a different intonation to WH questions, and there's one of them's falling, one of them's rising. I never remember which way it is. But if I was to say something now, like, "Oh, what did you do last night?" Da, 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 da. That's the way I would say it. What did you do last night? Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want a cup of tea? So I think both of those actually sound like falling to me. What did you do last night? Oh no, that's rising. WH rising. But I think it's WH supposed to be falling and yes/no is supposed to be rising, and I do it the other way around. I can't remember what it was, but all I remember is that whatever you're supposed to do, I found myself doing the opposite again and again and again and again. And I got to the point where I was like, there's not a lot of intonation pattern rules are not really rules. Some of them are. So one that really is consistent is lists. Right, so rise, 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 and fall at the end. The list works. You don't normally need to teach that though, because in every language that I've heard, that's how lists work. So, in Spanish as well, el caballo, el perro, y, el gato. It's the same. So they don't need to, you don't need to worry about it that much with lists. An interesting thing you can do with intonation, which I use just for building awareness in general, is using and just changing the intonation pattern and asking people what it means. So like, right? Like all those things have different meanings. Like that's different to right? And you can talk about then how intonation affects meaning, get the students to copy it, talk about what it means, and then you're just raising awareness about it, which is great. But then teaching someone that, what did you do last night? Come on, everyone. What did you do last night? What did you do last night? And then they hear someone like me, and I'm like, so what did you do last night? And they're like, what? You didn't use the correct intonation, Teacher Rich. And it's like, well, that's because it's bollocks. So, you got to be careful with stuff, haven't you, basically? You have to test it yourself. And if when you say something naturally, it doesn't happen, then you have to question it and say, is it worth teaching this?
Well, I don't focus that much on intonation, but I kind of mostly combine it with like connected speech, because I find they bleed well together, as kind of like if you start with intonation, you can kind of segue easier into connected speech, because intonation is pretty easy to understand because it's like up and down, what have you, patterns. And then with connected speech, you can just be like, well, it goes up and down, but words kind of go together as well. And one thing that I like to do is, especially with if we're doing speaking like this, I like to leave a long time, so students have a lot of practice with doing these dialogues. And I'll get them to switch around, but it's also something that you can kind of throw in there if you've taught it previously, of kind of adding a new layer to the dialogue that you're practicing. So, could we focus on the intonation? How much can we go over the connected speech? That sort of stuff is what I like to layer on at the end, because I don't feel, apart from having a class or two about going over general rules, you can't really just have a full class for intonation on every piece of language that you introduce. So I kind of add it in, add the spice on the top of a dialogue. I think that kind of seems to be his idea, but I think he's introducing it today, which is what I don't agree with.
What did you do last night? I went to the cinema. I just don't understand. I don't think it's going to help them speak naturally. I think it's going to just sound synthetic.
Also, I think it does apply to different students as well, because more Asian languages I find have more difficulty with intonation, because it can be more tonal. So it really depends. It's horses for courses. It's kestrels for Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
Frodo, I am your father.
I mean, yeah. And the other thing is with a lot of speakers, you're right, with Asian speakers, they do need intonation work of some description. I would, as I've already said, I would default to awareness raising and get them to be sort of autonomous imitators of intonation. And they do actually do it quite naturally, I think, once they actually can identify it and copy it.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of European speakers, I think almost their intonation kind of gives them a bit of flavour, doesn't it? It's like when an Italian speaking English, you can tell most of the time, and it's nice. I mean, yeah, if you really want to completely eliminate any signs of your cultural background in your English language, then yeah, you could adopt British intonation. But there's nothing wrong with the Italian intonation. People like it, oh, what, Mama, what do you want me to do? I mean, it's endearing, and people can understand it. We know what you mean. I mean, we have different intonation patterns in English, don't we? There's the classic, like the Californians that always go up at the end, even though it's not a question. We have different intonation patterns in English. We can interpret them, and the European languages all seem to have these different ones. They bring them into English, and most of the time they work fine. They work fine as they are, so they don't actually need that much development. The only thing that we're trying to get away from, really, is flat intonation.
Yeah.
That's where things kind of, it can cause problems because it sounds boring, sounds robotic, so we want to work on that. And as you said, Asian students are the big, the area where that's normally an issue.
And just boring people. Yeah. No, there are students that are monotone. I can be quite monotone, especially if I'm like tired or what have you.
It's 5 a.m.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. or like I'm having to think and I'm having to be super serious and careful with my words. But it's by changing personalities, not just as accents as well.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
All right, let's keep going.
I'm going to speak. Yeah, listen and repeat. Okay, everybody. Okay. If it helps you, you can do this. I do this. What did you do last night? Do you want to try? What did you, with your hands, look. What did you do last night? Speak.
What did you do last night?
Listen and repeat. What did you do last night?
See, I like this.
I went to the cinema.
I went to the cinema.
Oh, excuse me. I went to the cinema.
I went to the cinema.
Lovely. Oh, really? Really? What did you see?
What did you see? What did you see?
Borat.
Borat.
Ooh, really? Really? Did you enjoy it?
Did you enjoy it?
Did
Did you enjoy it?
And number one, ready? Yes, it's brilliant.
Yes, it's brilliant.
It was okay. It was okay.
It was okay.
Nothing special.
Nothing special.
Bit boring.
Bit boring.
Bit stupid.
Bit stupid.
No, it was awful.
No, it was awful.
Okay. Now, we're going to practice together and then pairs. Question and answer. Okay? Ask the question.
Hello, Sandra. What did you do last night?
I went to the cinema.
Really? What did you see?
Borat.
Really? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was brilliant.
Fantastic. Okay, with your...
It's kind of funny, isn't it? Because I thought, the questions I thought they had a bit OTT intonation, much like his demo. But the responses I actually thought sounded actually quite natural.
Yeah.
And maybe partly that's the idea that he wants to overcook it, so just to make sure it's cooked, kind of thing. So give them the extreme example and hope that they kind of they go a bit in that direction, but not all the way.
Some people like a well done steak. They belong in hell, but
Well, it's kind of like the idea that, you've got the chicken out the freezer, so it's a bit frozen in the middle, so maybe it needs an extra 20 minutes in the oven.
you just sit on it.
But the problem is sometimes when you do that, if you're using a mix of frozen chicken and fresh chicken, then you risk burning the fresh chicken. And, I think that's what happened with the girl who was asking the questions there, that she went kind of with the, "But what did you do last night?"
Really?
Like,
Really?
Children's TV presenter that's been at the chocolate cupboard. And the person responding actually did it in quite a natural way, so...
Yeah.
Your partner, this is A, B, okay? A, B, and then change. A, B. What did you do? This conversation, okay? Go ahead.
It's just an excess of everything, isn't there? Like, I mean, you could just stop at right, okay, A, B, A, B, A, B, here's the conversation, go. Instead he's like, A, B, da, 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 da. What did you do? Oh, I went to the, it's like, he has to take it to like level 11, and it's like, it's all right. They know what they're doing. You've just demoed it, right? Okay, with your partner, off you go. That's all that was needed there.
What do you do?
What did you do last night?
On top of the fact that they've already done this, because they did it before that he did all this intonation drilling and everything. They actually did that 15-second conversation.
Yeah. No thinking. Yeah.
What did you see there?
Bored.
Did you enjoy it?
Really? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was brilliant.
Okay, great.
Okay, here we go.
I don't think we're going to get to see it. Oh, yeah, we will. There is a little bit.
Okay.
Okay?
What did you do last night?
I stayed at home.
Really? What did you do?
I watched TV.
What did you watch?
It was brilliant. What did you do last night?
I stay at home.
What did you do?
I watch TV.
Did you enjoy it? No. What did you watch?
I watch Love Actually.
Did you enjoy it?
It was okay, nothing special.
Okay. Did you enjoy the lesson?
Yes.
The result was actually pretty good in the end, wasn't it? I mean, if that was authentically what came out of the lesson, I think what we saw there at the end was, it's pretty nice if you're getting A1 students having a nice conversation like that. Intonation's a little bit synthetic in my opinion. Talked about that to death. Haven't really got anything else to say about it. I think, I don't think you can really argue with the result. I think the result's decent, but a little bit surprising actually. I would have imagined it to go off the rails a little bit, but it seems like we actually got a pretty decent result with even some flexibility.
Yeah, no, it turned out well at the end. I do like the exercise at the end where he's asking them, to change up the dialogue and see what they can produce, so they take more ownership of it. So, instead of, going to the cinema, they're watching TV. It's kind of similar, and it gets them thinking to how they can personalize the language that they've learnt. And obviously it'll be with words that they already know. You might just have to help them change some verb forms or what have you. I feel like it's the best possible outcome from that class. It feels with that class that he's obviously a very experienced teacher, and he's got his own way of doing things, and maybe it is just the way he kind of floods students with new information. But I think for another teacher, if they were to do the same things that he was doing, it might have gone quite wrong. You know, like, if you were a new teacher, I wouldn't go about suggesting what he did, you know, introducing a whole bunch of new and different vocabulary structures. I would, you know, suggest to focus on one thing and kind of and build from that. So I'm not sure how well or how much that would help someone that's very new to teaching. You know, that they would be able to kind of reproduce that and have the same result. I'm not sure if they would be able to do that.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. He is obviously an experienced teacher. He kind of flies by the seat of his pants on top of his plan as well, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He kind of goes with his gut feeling a lot, and you know, somehow kind of keeps it going, even though, you know, arguably he's overcooking the broth, in my opinion. But it is kind of his style as well, and you know, I'm a bit twitchy in class. You know, I'm not like the most super chill person. I kind of, you know, get into high energy mode and then I'm going, you know, and it can be more difficult sometimes to stifle that rather than just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it is kind of his style. And if you give that lesson plan to another teacher, you know, would they be able to pull it off? You know, especially a newer teacher, they would struggle with it. And maybe that's why this video gets criticized so much in CELTA courses, because, you know, it is kind of new teachers doing the analysis of it, and they're sort of thinking, me, that's not going to, if I do that, like, I'm going to completely lose track. And also they might kind of struggle to actually see the benefit the students are getting, because they get kind of distracted by the silly stuff and kind of think, oh, he's just messing around in class. Whereas, you know, we can look at it and say, yeah, if they really are getting from what they had to the end result, having a conversation, there's plenty of demand high in there throughout. How do you spell this? What's another word for that? What words do we know for this? Does this mean very bad or just bad? You know, there was lots of teaching and testing and working with language and stuff like that. You know, you can't criticize that part of it. He's working as a teacher, isn't he? You know,
Oh yeah,
he's not kicking back.
he's
but
not
again,
not phoning it in. No.
No. But again, arguably that could be another criticism, that there's not a lot of student autonomy in this class. Although I wouldn't necessarily say it's too teacher-centric, because he is involving the students and he's eliciting and he's pushing them with demand high, but there's not a lot of autonomy there. Like, he's not necessarily training them to actually take these skills and go do something with them. Instead, he's saying, look, this is how you say it, copy me and say it like this.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
Yeah, if you're going to teach intonation, you want to teach it as a skill, because he was literally teaching intonation rather than just kind of going over it. But anyway, and
Yeah.
The demand high thing, it's something you got to be careful with, that it doesn't just become an excuse for, you know, oh, well, the students didn't get it. You know, I demanded high and they just didn't reach the high. Yeah, I think you got to be very, you've got to know your students and know their level quite well to actually be able to reach that sweet spot. One thing that I did want to point out and talk about is, I don't know if it's something that he does intentionally or if it's just a byproduct. But you know, when you introduce a lot of new information, so you know, new vocabulary, new structures, his intonation, when you overload people, there's this idea in psychology where you overstimulate someone, it puts them into a default receptive state, so they absorb whatever you're saying without a filter. I can't remember what it's called, but it's what they do with kind of like a brainwashing. I think it is. I wonder if that's kind of something that he's not intentionally doing, but like if it that somehow helps. I don't know if you ever heard of anything like that.
I've never heard of that. No, I don't really know anything about it. It sounds interesting, but no, I've never come across that. So it's like sensory overload leading to someone being more receptive.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a really simple example. So do you know? All right. So say someone's talking on the phone, you can easily just hand somebody, like some trash or a dirty plate or whatever, and they'll take it and they'll just hold it and they'll continue doing their phone call because they're already so preoccupied with, and engaged with what's going on. So there was this idea, I think it might have been with NLP, where you can put people into this state. And I always wondered if that would be something that you could use in the language classroom, in that you're kind of introducing, say you introduce a whole bunch of new structures and vocabulary, then you could easily add in kind of like more connected speech, intonation, and they would like subconsciously start doing that more with it, and it would like seep in more into the subconscious. I don't know, but I'm just speculating.
I would be really interested to know more about that. I can't find any information on it, so we can't really comment on it.
I can't remember the name, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, there's a few sort of pseudo-scientific ways of kind of deep teaching someone. And it might be one of those that, like it hasn't really been studied, but it's in NLP or something. It does sound kind of interesting, but I'd like to know if there's any science to back it up. Because the other one I've heard of is like one of the ways that you can teach people stuff that's very low level stuff, the kind of things that people learn when they're a baby or a toddler, is that you have to like completely break them down emotionally first, and then you can basically teach someone like they're a baby. So it's essentially what the military used to do in like the 1970s, where if you've seen like Full Metal Jacket, and he kind of goes around and says, "You're pathetic, you're a worm, you're useless at everything." Like he wants people to just completely be broken. And then he starts saying like, "You've cleaned your gun well, son. It looks great. Well done. Oh, you're a big man. Oh, you know what you're doing with that gun. It's so clean. Oh, look at your uniform. It's so sharp, And sir, yes, sir, And it's like they get built up as these new sort of confident, alpha male characters or whatever. And it's because you sort of completely break them down and then retrain them to be kind of that sort of personality. Again, I think it's kind of pseudo. I don't know how much actual studies have been done on that.
That just sounds like abuse to me.
Well, it's definitely abuse.
Yeah.
No. But in the military, it would definitely be considered abuse unless you say, "I want this to be done to me." But where I heard of it from was a book called Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson.
Ah, yes, yeah, I remember that one. It's been ages since I've read that.
It's a good book, and as I say, it's it's kind of just his theories and stuff or whatever based on Timothy O'Leary's Seventh Circuit model of the mind. But it is interesting, and it's definitely plausible, and it definitely does seem like it is the thing that militaries do, and people do talk about real personality change happening when someone goes through something like that. So it could be true, but anyway, we're going totally off tangent. I'm just offering it as an alternative kind of pseudo-scientific ultra-learning method or whatever.
Well, the only thing that I think that's come close is like Suggestopedia, but that's the idea. The idea with that is that music is what kind of keeps your brain waves, in a receptive state. But also, there's that idea that doing like brown noise or something like that keeps or listening to music even just keeps your subconscious occupied while you're more active, so you don't get distracted easily and you're more actively focused. But I think there's something in there. I'm not sure anyone's really been able to kind of like nail it down in language teaching or just in teaching and education overall. But if you're watching this and you kind of know about this, leave us a comment, reach out to us at eltunderthecovers@gmail.com. We'd love to have you on the show. We'd love to hear more about this. Very interesting, and it's definitely our cup of tea. Woo-hoo!
It's absolutely our cup of. It's our cup of. That's right. Tea. How do you spell it? T-E-A. That's right. What other hot drinks do we know? Coffee, tea, hot chocolate. Great.
Chocolate.
No,
I've eaten a lot of chocolate. Let's move on.
There's something to be taken from that, though. There is.
Can you flap like a bird?
Yeah, I think overall, I'm coming away from this with a much more positive view of Bill than what I got in my CELTA course 12 years ago, where Bill kind of got torn to shreds by the other like trainee teachers who didn't know anything, and the course tutor just kind of smiled and nodded while people said this stuff. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm kind of looking at it and going, oh, this guy's really fucking good at what he does. There's just a few quirky things which can be criticized. I mean, yeah, he's good. He's a good teacher, and he's got a good result from them there, and he is testing them. I mean, there's no doubt about that. People, they are engaged, and they're having to stay on their feet and answer these questions and think about stuff. And they didn't look stressed.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we saw them looking miserable, because we have seen some of these videos where some of the students have looked a bit miserable.
Yeah.
But here they didn't. So
I think there's like this line, isn't there, where, you know, like I'm trying to think off the top of my head from the How to Teach English series, like the kit. I think it was the kit lesson, you know, the listening one. It, you know, structurally, the plan of the lesson was, you know, it was by the book. But it was just a little bit wet, you know. And Bill's was highly engaging, a little bit over-taught, sure, but, a lot of energy there. Students were into it. So, you can be, cut and dry, you can be by the books, but there's a certain je ne sais quoi that you bring as a teacher. And I think when you gain experience, and you've kind of run through the basics, then you start to really sort of see how someone teaches and what their style is. And I think this is just Bill being the best Bill teacher that he can be. And he's expressing that in a very wonderful, quirky, Rick Sanchez way. I love to do that. But I'm sure we all have our own little quirks, and someone probably whips out the guitar a little bit much. Someone he's probably really deadpan, like Alan. He was pretty deadpan, but he was great with it. He knows how he is. So, I wouldn't shit on Bill from a great height at all. I think he's very experienced, and there's a lot to learn from him. I wouldn't probably show this example to new students, though, because I think if they're new, it's beyond their understanding. If they're new teachers, it's kind of beyond their comprehension, because they're taught you've got to do the presentation, and then you got to do the practice, and then you got to do the production, and this is what it looks like. This is the structure. These are the rules, and you got to stick to these. But then like we all know, once you move past that, then it's however you want to teach, and however you think it's going to best work for the students. Yeah, solely really that matters.
Yeah. And another thing about this as well is I think Bill was well aware that things went a bit topsy-turvy. He realised it when he gave them the 15-second task. You could see it, that they weren't doing what he wanted.
No, they were literally doing the dialogue.
Yeah, they were doing the dialogue. But, you know, he's still kind of gone along with it, and he hasn't said, oh, can we record another class? He's let it go out there, you know, warts and all, which is what I've said in the past. I think there's a certain, you know, there's a certain testicular fortitude which can be associated with that, you know, that you just kind of go, look, this is I'm doing a lesson here to be discussed, so people can discuss what went right, what went wrong, and they can learn a little bit about, you know, feedback and, you know, how to deal with feedback and looking at the good points, the bad points. And, you know, I think,
Yep.
great.
Bill definitely has the hoo-ha. He has those cojones.
Yeah,
and
he's got that. He's got that.
you know, you got to take into account that he came from his first job at the chocolate factory to go straight into the classroom. did a forward roll. But yeah,
he's just finished cooking up a batch with Mr. White and rolled straight into class. Yeah.
But Bill, if you're watching this, we loved your class. We'd love to have you on the show.
Oh, that would be quite a treat if we could get Bill on. Yeah.
Yeah. just reach out to us. Reach out to us. It doesn't have to be through email form. It could be in the form of a dream. Or whatever which way that you connect with people.
Signals. I'll be watching the horizon.
2 fingers for yes, 1 finger for no.
Okay, Bill, if you want to come on the show, just don't do anything. Just don't say anything. We'll take that as a yes.
So if you're just watching this as a teacher and you've got any other comments, please leave us below. We read all the comments, or send us a message, eltunderthecovers@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you and from our audience. Other than that, thank you for watching. Ta-ra. If you're looking for more information from myself, you can go to teamteacherchina.com. We've got a whole bunch of materials, PowerPoints that you can use instantly in the classroom. We've got a Team Teacher China YouTube channel where we have videos teaching you how to use those materials. Team Teacher English, where we put those materials into a video form for self-study. And Team Teacher Baby, where I take my experience as a teacher and put that into parenting.
And go to youtube.com/Professor Rich to see some English teaching. You can catch me weekly live streams on Oxford Online English YouTube channel. Oh, and also you can do a YouTube search for POG Space UK, and you would get my alpha version of my new gaming channel, which actually just have some trial content on there at the moment. You can email us here at eltunderthecovers@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to contribute to the show.
Smash that like button, share and subscribe.
And watch 100% of the video and don't click off. Thank you.
Bye.